Welcome to the Bougie Black Brother Network. Good evening and welcome to M3 Millennial Money Management, where we talk about management, all types of different subjects that millennials really have an insight on or need to have an insight on. And I'm here with my co-host, Chaz. What's going on, brah?
What's up? Just a quick update. I got another alias. Yes, another one.
Of course you do.
So, Tracksuit Tommy.
Tracksuit Tommy. What happened to Tracksuit Timothy?
I didn't like it. I was also debating 2% tracksuit.
2%, like the milk.
You know what I'm saying?
See,
you know what I'm saying?
we're right there.
You know what I'm saying? Like 2 piece, like you get punch, 1 and a 2.
Right.
It's like 2%.
2 piece.
But
Yeah.
I thought that's too deep.
With a biscuit, people won't know. They won't get it.
They're not gonna get it.
I got you. We got 2 special guests with us today. My resident guest is my wife, Alicia.
Hello.
So she's here, and we're going to be passing the mic on. So when you hear all this fidgeting and all of that, then we'll go from there. But once you introduce our guest, Chaz.
All right. So this is a friend of mine. We got cool about 2.5 years ago.
2.5.
1.5. Who knows? I don't know the math.
It was about 2%.
About 2.
Look at that. He's a comedian. That's why he's on the podcast.
Absolutely.
But he has an interesting story. You know, he gave me advice back when I was a wee little intern. I was trying to find my way. It was like guidance, North Star on the plantation. Was that anyway?
Lost puppy.
And are you going by? You giving the government name?
Yeah, my name's Justin Fontenot, information security consultant at a major financial institution.
Or he sells crack. It depends.
Yeah. On the side, you got to do what you got to do.
Yes,
Recent father. Got to make ends meet.
Yeah, so I think he has good insight, and I'm excited about this episode. Everybody in the studio, I think we can just jump into this one.
Exactly. So, couple of background. Just running because information security is really hot right now, and one of the things that we wanted to add in, as well as a little background of our guests, is that insight, because it's not going to stop, and inshallah our government has it as a priority. We had that on our repo, actually podcast talking about how the government is so behind on upgrading anything that it comes to technology. Hence the Facebook Congress deal. But let's go straight with background.
Yeah, because me and Justin actually, I forget one of our first. So we met just because we sat like across each other or near each other, right?
Really close, yeah. I forget.
But it was almost, I won't say high school, but we would just talk shit and crack jokes.
Yeah,
like for a lot of the time.
Yeah, you come in looking all disheveled, be like, "Come on, man! I know you're an intern. You gotta clean it up."
Don't you want to move up in the world?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I can't. I was looking disheveled.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember, I gave you shit for your nappy hair. I was like, "Oh, Chaz, you gotta get your hair.
Wow.
You gotta get your hair clean, bro."
I like that.
It looks better. It looks better now. I'll say that.
I don't remember
a little bit.
I think Justin didn't understand natural hair. He was being racist. I gotta throw him under the bus on that.
There you go.
My hair probably did look fucked up. I'm not gonna let him have it. But you see what I'm saying? Like,
Good comeback, though. Good comeback.
Right.
You can always fall back on it.
But it was
always use that card.
Right. We pull that out all the time. But it was just what I appreciate about him was, he was just like, he took the time to give me advice to say, hey, blah blah blah. No, listen to me. Just trying to, understand the workplace. That particular.
The nuances there and all.
The culture of it and my goals. So yeah, we just kind of bonded over time like that. And I remember one conversation because we could relate just based on the background. So I just want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure.
Something like kind of how you came up.
Yeah, I bounced around, kind of broken home, grew up without a father, and a mother who had some serious drug problems for a good portion of my childhood. In and out of living with her and then living with my grandparents, which was probably the saving grace was just the periods of time with my grandparents,
right.
Much more structured. Grandfather was retired military, and would go back and forth, lots of criminal difficulty. I got arrested several times as a juvenile, and then there was like a breaking point where I was like 16, and I had basically stopped going to school, but I didn't tell anybody. But I still kept trying to go and play football.
Gotcha.
So I'd go to practice and stuff, and then one day, I guess when mid-semester point, when the grades got reported to the coaching staff, they cut me from the team and let my parents know at the same time that I was failing every single class, and that was because I'd basically not attended.
Gotcha.
So my parents decided to send me to live with my grandparents permanently at that point to finish high school and hopefully, have a chance to salvage it.
So here in Georgia? Or?
Yeah, so
Where are you originally from?
Most of the younger childhood was down in Tampa, Florida.
Okay, so you moved up.
Yep. And then I moved up, and then most of middle childhood, I would say, adolescent into teenager, was in Atlanta, in northern, like the suburbs, up in Woodstock area. Okay. And then eventually, like when the straw broke the camel's back, I got sent to live with my grandparents. They were in Augusta, Georgia.
Oh, you went out to Augusta.
Yeah, so, and it was funny, the school I actually went to there was much worse from a crime perspective. It was.
Well, it is Augusta.
Yeah, I got in a lot more trouble immediately upon arriving there, but then the structure reeled me back in and allowed me to recover.
Okay. So you did say that, you gave him some good advice and kind of got Chaz on track. Did you have anyone other than your grandparents that when you moved from, I guess, getting out of high school, deciding what you want to do, was there anyone out there saying, dude, you need to go this way? Any mentorship or any person you kind of said, wow, that guy makes sense, I'm going to listen?
Yeah, so my grandfather was a really big role model for me. I was in the military program, the JROTC program at my high school once I lived with them. Mm-hmm. And that created some, challenges and then also things to pursue from an accomplishment perspective. Actually, that's probably, now that I think about it, a big reason for my success as well, is that I got that structure and discipline in school, right, in addition to at the home front. I would say it's probably a smattering of people throughout my life. There have been several people who, even when I was younger, going through much more rough activities and just the difficulty of living in that situation, there are people that I remember that had that left an imprint. I actually, like 5 years ago, had an exercise where I went out of my way to try and track all those people down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and wow, thank them for their role.
What prompted you to do that?
I had stayed connected with one of them through Facebook, and he happened to be my elementary school counselor that I had in 5th grade.
Wow.
And I don't know how he found me. He just sent me a request one day when I was a teenager, and I stayed connected with him very, very seldomly. And then, I saw him on Facebook, and I was like, I'm just going to reach out to this guy after I had graduated college and felt way more proud of what I had built out of my past. So I decided to thank him, and the feeling, just the overwhelming emotions I had when doing that and having that conversation with him. I mean, the man cried on the phone with me. Wow. He told me that this is why he does his work, and it made me proactively search for the others that I had remembered in my life.
No, so to me that's amazing, because I kind of kept up with them, and then it was like they're gone.
Yeah,
but those people kind of make you who you are.
Absolutely.
And sometimes they don't know, because I ran into a person that I was mentoring and didn't realize I was mentoring.
Yeah.
And you remember we was in the mall. So the guy ran out of the men's warehouse. He was running in there and was like, Mike. And I was like, excuse me? He said, Mike, don't you remember me? And I was like, yeah, how you doing? Yeah. And then he went through it, and I realized who he was. And he was like, man, I really appreciate you. You put me on the track where I needed to be. And I was like, oh, my God. I've done this. And that made me think that sometimes when you touch people, you don't realize what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then when you reach back to say thank you, then that gives them something too.
Absolutely.
So, that's great for you to kind of illustrate that, because I think more of us need to do that, because there's a lot of people who just think they're not doing much at all, but don't realize the impact they did on a lot of people's lives.
I think from my perspective, just when I was younger, like in the 5th grade, I had a teacher just asking me, hey, do you have a place to stay? Do you have, are you eating? And at the time, I didn't really think about it. Mm-hmm. But just as an adult, I'm like, she's clearly
concerned.
Yeah, it's like, that's not a normal question
right.
to ask. And I'm just like, man. So I can imagine from her perspective as a teacher, whatever happened, I hope, it's kind of like a bit of closure and, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I definitely, you definitely just inspire me right now just to do some searching on LinkedIn or something.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, especially because some of these people you haven't spoken with or even heard of.
Yeah.
20 years plus,
But Justin, you're proud of yourself.
Yeah, I feel like that was where it derived from. Was my self-pride I built.
But it's not selfish pride. It's where it came from.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but let's keep going. So before we jump ahead too far with the pride, because I'm curious. So this is about. I want people to understand just how people accomplish what they accomplish.
Right.
So first, was it expected for you to go to college or 4-year university, vocational? What was the plan after high school?
I mean, after high school at that point, yeah,
it was expected for you.
Yeah, pretty much, because I had decided I was going to go to the military academy, and I applied and got into North Georgia College in State, which was like they consider themselves the little sister of West Point. It's like the second most prestigious Army academy in the country, apparently.
Really?
Something of the like, yeah. So they model themselves exactly after West Point. They actually have a lot of West Point puts their hands in there and actually helps them mold the program, or did early on. And I went there for my first year of college. So it was pretty planned from junior year that I was going to go to college. But I will say that all 3 of the years after I had moved in with my grandparents, I took basically all my high school in the summer because I would fail.
What?
And fail.
And just take it all over again.
So how don't you have to pay for summer school?
Yeah.
So okay. So
yeah, I have a lot of debt.
No, but
that approach carried into college, unfortunately for me, and I subsidized my own way through loans.
Right.
I made a lot of bad decisions financially. I didn't have any. That was one thing I really lacked. I had all this self-pride. I started to gain confidence in my abilities and my intelligence and my ability to adapt and read situations and people. But then, looking back now, 5 years ago even, I had no financial skills.
Gotcha.
Really?
So I put myself in a big hole. So I was still working through that, climbing out of it as we speak.
How did you pick your major? Because, all right, so you did your first year at this school. You transferred? Or?
Yeah. Talk about career transition. Education transition happened rapidly. I went into military academy with a pursuit of a public relations and international politics background.
Wow. So what brought that on now?
So that was just really interest in. I really liked learning about history at the time, international conflict, but I noticed that I myself gravitated when I would study it more towards the upper workings of it. I wish I could give a good example, but this king screwed this king's cousin or something like that, right? Like that kind of stuff. I became more interested in the high macro level drama that was occurring.
Yeah, the controversial.
That's oversimplified.
Yeah,
but
right.
It sounds like you're interested in the what happened?
Yeah,
Steve shot Ray.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what started the gang war.
Steve.
That's why we had war.
Damn, that's why we got to kill all this other gang.
Exactly. Okay. After military academy, I went to Georgia Southern. That's where I transferred to, mainly because I had good friends there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's the real Southern, not state. But went there, and
we're gonna edit that out.
Sorry, I would just clear my throat.
Right, of course, with that nonsense.
So you're not going to predict this. I went there with a chemistry major.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because I was good at science too. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do
with
chemistry.
something that I'm good at.
Yeah.
You was killing them with the science?
Yeah, I was trying to, man. And then in college, they're like, yeah, if you want to be good at science, you got to be good at math and writing and all this other stuff. I'm like, I'm not good at any of that.
Fuck
He's
that.
like, fuck that.
Yeah. I'm like, can I pick a major that you only have to be good at that thing
Yeah.
in order to get the degree?
Accounting, yeah.
So
you
I
just gotta-
picked criminal justice.
Really?
Yeah, that's my bachelor's degree.
Oh, shit,
It's pre-law, yeah.
See, this is perfect because you have a lot of people who be like, man, what the fuck am I going to do with this degree?
Yeah.
So this is beautiful for all you criminal law and history majors and shit.
Yeah.
Even me, you know, I had my political science, and if I was smart, you move to DC or a city where you can actually work in policy,
position yourself,
make some money. Not
And
stay in
criminal
Atlanta
law, too, yeah, so.
Don't stay in Atlanta like a dope, like a dumbass. What the fuck am I gonna do?
You can get in on the mayor campaigns, man. They're heated.
I can be crooked and work for the governor.
Yeah. Or the mayor.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
Not the new mayor. Okay, we
Well, we'll see.
we'll see.
Jury's still out.
So
what I like about the mayor, just real quick,
go ahead.
it's like, you know, it doesn't matter if you're black or white. You can still be crooked, baby.
It can be. It's equal opportunity.
Man,
woman, black, white,
young, old, because she's not that.
gender preference, all
She's
of that.
fairly young, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Okay.
But all right, side note. Though.
Back to it. So chemistry. So then you went with chemistry, but
And then you shift gears.
Yeah,
to-
just-
like fuck the
so
chemistry.
wait, what the hell did were you thinking about being a lawyer?
Yeah, so it was come out of college with a criminal justice degree, work my way as a police officer or a detective in through law school, and then become a lawyer.
Oh wow!
So the military enjoyment, like the tactical, like I really enjoyed the physicality and the tactical side of military as well.
Right.
So you're
So
gonna
I wanted to transfer that over
you're
to
gonna
something I
kick
could do.
down
which would be-
doors in the black community.
No,
There you go.
I'm gonna be on the SWAT team, and no,
No, I got.
I'm never gonna load in less than lethals.
Yeah.
Less than lethal. Jesus.
No, but really, it was looking for something like the military that I could go into because I excelled in the program, and thinking back, lessons learned about who I am and figuring out more of who I am now. That I think me being so interested in the military and so interested in law enforcement was just me still yearning for some type of really rigid structure and discipline.
Yep.
Did you understand it at
Because
that time?
now I don't have the yearning for it, right?
Oh, okay. So that's
It's not like a passion that's within me that I still want to do.
So is it in the place you at right now? Is it more of a free thinking, kind of a little more spontaneous than structure to the point, or you have enough structure embedded in you that you can do more?
I would say it's the latter more
Okay.
so. I've
That's me
built
too.
up an inherent structure. But yeah, I still try to take it very easygoing and have kind of go with the flow.
Gotcha.
I'm a planner though,
Mm-hmm.
like a 3-5 X years.
Wow.
So I just hit my first milestone. I turned 30 this year. Yeah, exactly. I'm old. No,
The applause went in.
turned
The old
30.
people
and
on the right.
I had a
was
bunch
like,
of goals
"Yeah, right."
set. I didn't look at y'all. I'm not gonna guilt trip you guys.
Of course you didn't. Yeah.
But I had a bunch of goals set for by the time I was 30, and much to my disbelief, I hit them all because I was taking the approach of trying to hit really lofty goals.
Gotcha.
5 years ago when I set them, and I hit them all. So 5 years ago, I would have told you that now I've set pretty unrealistic goals.
Can you share some of them or?
Yeah, so it was to have a kid
Wow.
by the time I was 30, which I had a month before I turned 30, so came right up on that.
Right.
So 3 months ago, I became a
Congratulations.
father, which was excellent. And then the other was break 6 figures in earnings annually, which I hit late last year. And then the other was be put into a leadership position, which I also hit late last year
Wow.
in my career. So
Wish I could say that at 30.
Right.
No, but lofty goals.
yeah,
But
I was
but-
making $30K when I said it when I was 25. So it's just crazy that I'm here now.
No.
Still disbelief a lot.
So it's not crazy. You know you had a plan. Regardless of the peripherals that was out there or your background.
Yeah.
You was like, I'm going for this.
Yeah.
A lot of people give up. A lot of people's like, man, I know I said that, but I know I wasn't going to get it anyway, but I'm going to try. But you accomplished that, which is amazing. But how do you feel now that you hit those lofty goals?
I have a curse of just thinking about what's next, right?
Yep.
So now my next goal is 3 years. I want to own a house. By 5 years, I want to like have a certain amount of my debt chunked down. I have a dollar figure in mind. And then by the time I'm 40, I want to be running at least part-time my own company.
That's right. That's one that we used to talk about.
Yeah. We talked about entrepreneurship.
That's something you should always do. You should actually do you have a company on the side right now that you've started? Or?
No, I actually was going to so it was in the plan last year before the wife got pregnant to register an LLC, just to have it and be able to say established 2016, 2017.
Justin, you make too much money not to have it. You have to have one.
So yeah, I still need to, but that was one of the things that fell by the wayside temporarily.
I got you.
All right, so I want to make sure we continue with the chronological thing.
Okay.
But later, Justin, you got to talk about how you hit the you doing the financial investing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, but so I'm curious because you have a lot of people who get frustrated when they get what's called a liberal arts degree or something in that realm.
Yeah.
And they try to get a job. So once you had that degree, the piece of paper, well, how did you feel in the market, job hunting and such?
Oh, really cheap, worthless, pretty much. Yeah, it was. Wow. It was very difficult.
Right.
I moved back to Tampa because my parents had moved there while I was in college.
Okay. So you moved from your grandparents?
No, I moved from Georgia Southern, from Statesboro, Georgia. Straight from college.
From campus.
And back
from campus
back to
Tampa. And the whole time I was in Statesboro, I was living off of loans fully, with a little bit of part-time work. But I was bad at that time financially as well. Moved back to Tampa, lived with my parents for 6 months. I was totally unemployed, 100%. I was working part-time with a family friend at his electrical business. I actually started to develop quite a bit of skills and got to the point where it became like an out, like if something with my degree didn't work out, I was actually going to pursue like becoming an apprentice electrician and going forward that way because it was pretty good work. I like working with my hands and I felt like I was excelling at it.
Electricians get paid too.
Yeah. My family friend was making a lot handsome living too. So right. I was making like $10 an hour part-time doing that though. Got hired as a law clerk, just a file clerk at a major law firm, multinational law firm, which was really cool. They gave me like my own desk with a name tag and everything. It was really rewarding, but I was still only making like $12 an hour.
But you felt good, though.
Yeah, I felt great. It was a big step, right? I was wearing slacks and button down and,
I'm important.
Yeah, exactly. I took a picture of my name tag, right? Put it on Facebook. Look at me.
I'm important here.
Look at his bitches.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Justin Fontenot.
Right.
So it was good. I actually met my wife at that job. So my path, I have no regrets from the path. But I did work that job for just over a year. So that was, I left that job still working only 30 hours a week and making $12.50 an hour at that point. Right. But I left that job for another this one was actually a paralegal job, which was full-time. And it was $14 an hour. So it's slowly climbing, right?
Yep. Got them $2.
Yeah, and at that point, I'm like, oh, I'm close to $30K. Like, I got to get it.
I got them there.
Yeah. And I started to really, really excel at... Actually, let me not skip this one. I got a job making $14 an hour as a paralegal, but as soon as I got there, I was handed literal, like, just take these physical documents and scan them and put them in the computer. Like, I knew that as soon as I was done with this backlog of documents, I was gone. So I didn't even get invested. I actually was actively searching for another opportunity, even while I was at that office, like scanning documents like a robot, still looking at job boards and stuff, and they actually fired me from that job.
Damn.
Yeah.
Why? Because you didn't get it done in time?
No, they said that they have activity monitors on their computers, and I wasn't averaging enough clicks per minute or whatever.
What?
Swear to God, the guy, my manager, was some 20-something smug asshole. He loved firing me. He broke out this.
Wait, what was the voice? Well, how did he talk?
All right.
Right,
So he had long
breathe.
hair, right? College frat kid, long hair still.
Right.
And he's just like, well, I've gotten some bad news for you. I got a report from IT. If you look here, your actions per minute are just not what we're looking for. I don't know what you're doing all day. Just get real
Just
demeaning.
fucking, yes, going
Real
all
demeaning
in, right?
and stuff. And I'm like, his name's Derek. I'm like, come on, dude. What? It was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you gave me physical task. I wasn't on the computer.
Right.
Like, even if I was doing my job, I wouldn't be clicking the mouse. And totally didn't even care. It was fun. It was actually funny looking back, but I was pissed. I was irate.
You motherfuckers.
I told him
the business on the way out.
he walked me to my car. He's like, yeah, we're going to have to get your badge and I'll walk you to the car to get your parking pass and make sure you leave the premises. I looked at him and I said, fuck you, man. I said, I don't need an escort. I threw my badge on the ground and I went to my car and I broke the car pass in half and threw it at him through the fence and I drove off.
Take that, asshole.
Yeah. Last laugh. Ha ha.
How you like those apples?
Was that healthy behavior?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
Now,
It is.
that experience ingrained into my mind how much I don't want to work at a place like that or for a guy like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Damn.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then you got the other paralegal gig.
Yeah, like
Okay.
almost immediately after. I had already applied for it when I got let go, and then got an interview within a week, and then got hired another week later. And that one was much better. I was at a really successful foreclosure firm, and it was right after the crisis, so they had a ton of work.
A ton of fucking work.
Ton of work.
Yep.
Too much work for you to handle, which led to a lot of opportunity. They were building out massive teams. And I grabbed onto the opportunity. I started just really focusing on building relationships with the attorneys, the billable employee at the firm. This firm probably had 40 attorneys and maybe 300 support staff.
Wow.
Behind the scenes, attorneys were literally just signature robots for the most part.
Wow.
At that firm, yeah, it was because of the volume. It was really sweatshop design, like just straight, get it through.
Yeah.
Did you learn a lot though?
I did learn a lot, and I learned a lot from a professional perspective about what I do well.
Okay.
Which was branding, building my brand within that environment. I felt like was a challenge, and I was able to really succeed, and in short time get promoted over peers by standing out and making a difference. Attention to detail, and then innovation, like process improvement and things like that.
Gotcha.
Were really what I used to start to climb there.
So just to make sure people are listening, it's like if you find yourself and you're not exactly happy with your job hunt or how much you're getting paid, it's kind of like you're basically saying, make the most out of opportunities. Hopefully you can target firms that have opportunity.
Yeah.
But once you're in there and it's a good culture, you got to work your ass off. You got to network.
Yeah.
Find things to fix. Make yourself stand out. I feel like this is easier said than done. I mean, from day one, was that your mission or?
Not so much. It was day one is definitely learning the lay of the land for me,
Right.
and I think that still holds true today. But now, day one, I also, while learning the lay of the land, I pinpoint people to potentially build relationships with and pursue in that regard. But back then, it was much more. All right, let me learn what I need to do. I knew I was good at legal writing. I knew I was really good at like editing and making sure that the document had all of its T's crossed and I's dotted. Mm-hmm. And then, I was just really good on the phone at setting appointments and getting what we needed, getting moved into slots and just, I guess, so kind of coercive or convincing. I don't know. So it isn't as easy as I say, but I think it comes down to, I like to say it, positioning. I consider every step now. Back then, I wouldn't have labeled it that, but now, even back then, those steps I was taking were positioning myself for opportunity. And one of the reasons that succeeded for me was because, for example, focusing on spending more time in attorneys' offices and building relationships with them was very valuable. And I would go to these attorneys who I recognized were more willing to lend an ear, right? Like in the paralegal field, especially legal field, there's this really big. It's kind of similar. I have a friend who's a nurse. It's kind of similar to the doctor to nurse, like almost discrimination, right? Bias type thing. The attorneys are these highly educated professionals. They went to law school. It was really swanky, and law school does a great job of standing you up and making you feel like your shit don't stink, right? As a professional. As does medical school. And then it creates this culture where I would say at least half, probably 60% or more of the attorneys just look down on the support staff, which are the paralegals and things like that. Yeah. So it was about finding those people who are receptive to the discussions with a lowly paralegal, right? And then also people who I just enjoyed speaking to, and speaking with about anything.
So that helped find your value to say, damn, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. And then they kind of confirmed or validated. Yeah,
I feel like, they validated it by wanting to spend time with me outside of their own hours and their own commitments and things like that. Like joining fantasy football leagues, for example. One of the attorneys invited me to a fantasy football league, which is just him and all of his law school buddies.
Damn.
So I got in, and I still play in that league with those guys. Really cool guys.
Yeah, you should.
They all suck at fantasy football, so I get a lot of free money every year.
That helps.
Yeah. And then the other was this woman who was older, but she loved horses, and I love horses. I've never owned one, or I've only ever interacted with them a few times, but like the times I have, I was just like in awe by them and their brilliance. So I talked to her a lot just about her horses.
Gotcha. She owned horses?
Yeah. And
she's a lawyer, dude. She owned horses.
Yeah, she owned 4 horses, and she let me come out to her ranch with her family one time.
4 horses?
Yeah, with her husband and kids, and ride her horses with them one day. It was awesome.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, she was in her 50s. She was a lawyer, and her husband was a doctor.
Damn.
As Chaz rolls his eyes.
Well, no, you know what I was thinking? The first thought was fucked up. She just helps him with the malpractice lawsuits.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
Funnel money back and forth.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
Don't worry, we got you.
Yeah,
baby. So even there, that seemed almost lucrative to stay in that.
Like, you just networked your ass off.
Yeah, just interpersonal skill building there.
But what pivot that then? That's interesting because you did some electrician, you did and this one you felt good about yourself because you know what you was good at.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump to where you at right now. Was there anything after that?
Yeah, there were a couple more steps.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Right. So I'm saying we got to keep going this chronologically.
I'm a young guy, but
it's just like a movie.
I've been through a maze. So basically, I mean, you could sum it up as I came out of college not knowing at all what I was going to be doing.
Right.
Which is totally fair.
And I think that's normal. I thought I knew, but I, started to learn that it wasn't what it was cracked up to be. So I was there working as a paralegal and, just seeing the hours these lawyers were putting in, building relationships with some of the entry-level lawyers getting hired straight out of law school. I was able to get inside scoop and much more candid opinions, which were not good opinions. They were like, basically, the law market's saturated with lawyers right now.
Right.
Like it's hip to go to law school because it's 3 years. It's not 6 years like med school. It's and you're getting commensurate, similar pay at least at the onset. It had degraded the market so quickly that these guys I was working with at this law firm, they were coming out getting paid $40,000 a year on a degree that cost them almost $200,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. And they were working 60 hours plus a week.
Yeah, so that's like, when you calculate that, it's not good money.
As pennies for their degree. Pennies on the dollar.
Right.
So I decided to look for opportunity to pivot out of that. I was like, and to this day, I still love the practice of law. When we start talking about my current job, there's actually a factor. I've actually positioned myself to have a little function like that as well.
Okay.
What a douche.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a lawyer as well.
I position myself.
I'm gonna use that word, position.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna steal that shit.
I always tell my little brother and his friends that you got to position yourself for what you want, man.
What?
Yeah. They're like, what's that mean? Whatever you want it to.
Whatever you mean.
Hey, baby.
Got to say it real creepy, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Depends, yeah. Like, get away from me.
So from there, I was like, all right, I don't think I want to be a lawyer anymore. Or I need, I don't think I can achieve what I want to achieve by being a lawyer, I guess is a better way to say it. At that time, I had started to build out kind of what I would hope my life would turn out to be, which would be married, being able to support my wife and kid or kids with just my income. I'm a little more old school in that regard. I've been to a bunch of public schools. I've seen what goes on at public schools, so maybe I'm jaded too.
Right.
Just like I have no anxiety when I'm at work because my wife is at home taking care of my daughter, as opposed to if she was in daycare or something like that.
Right.
So I'm glad that I had hit that goal, but I had started to define that when I was at this firm, and I was probably at this time 23, going on 24. So I was like, all right, I need to get out of this space. What do I like? Technology. I've been a gamer my whole life. What skills can I find that could transfer into a more technology-driven industry? So I started to think about that, and I was like, well, I have good interpersonal skills, so like any type of client or relationship management function or role. Then I was like, well, I have really strong attention to detail. So I was like, anything that's like analytical. And then I started to think about, well, what did my degree give me, which was criminal justice background, which is a lot of criminal psychology is built into that, right? Like being able to get in the mind of a criminal and stuff. So I was like, well, let me look at the fraud space. So I pursued fraud. I started looking at like trying to be a manager at like loss prevention departments at corporations and stuff, like physical fraud control, right? Saw some opportunities come through in the financial services industry to be a fraud risk analyst on payment data. So I was like, I'm going to apply, and it was entry level, and I got that opportunity. I got the offer, and I was offered $50,000 a year. At that time, I was making $14 an hour.
And you was like, oh, take it.
I was on the phone at the firm, and I was like, hang on, let me step out. And she goes, well, I'm just happy to tell you that we're going to offer you $50,000. And I was in the office still, and I was just like, I'll take it. I was like, are you serious? So I really didn't believe it, right? Like, that was such a huge jump.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and they knew what I was making. I had been pretty honest, which I've learned now, pad yourself a little bit. But I'd been brutally honest with this company, too. So they knew what I was making. So I was very humbled to get that offer.
So, wow, they didn't fuck you over.
Yeah.
No, they made me a strong offer, for sure.
So either they really, really wanted to get you, or the company was like, we pay our people this way, which kind of...
So on the surface, I think it definitely seems like one of those. After spending some time there, I think their strategy was to bring you in the door making more than their competitors would pay you.
Gotcha.
And then keep you at that level. So I worked there for 3 years without a single raise.
Oh, they already maxed you out, buddy.
Yeah.
Don't ask for shit. Right?
Basically. And that was what led to the departure there, was lack of opportunity, logjam, no real development structure. There's nothing to give me that, right?
But that was... Did you get IT skills there? So were you working with data?
So yeah, I've built SQL queries. I was working with big data mining and stuff like that. And then learned a lot of risk management and just risk practices, more financial focused, but just risk management is very transferable across the sectors.
Yeah.
Technology, business, brand, all of those things.
Absolutely.
It's all about mitigation, baby.
Oh yeah, mitigation or avoidance.
Well, I just want to take a step back, because when people, like, if you're in a dead end job, I think what people really, really struggle with is being able to do that analysis. Like, you basically said, okay, what skills? What am I like? People struggle with what am I good at?
Yeah.
Where do I want to go? And what can I cultivate that I already have to get there?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then you didn't go back to school. Well, no, did you go back to school at this point?
Not at this point.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
Let's keep going.
Sorry, I'm long-winded. Well, episode 2.
I think it's essential though, because and I think, and it's really interesting because kind of Alicia went through the same thing. She went through so many different aspects to get to the point where she at in IT.
Yeah.
She took different there, and I don't want to speak for you, but that's why I'm so interested. I was like, damn, then what else did you do?
Yeah.
And then what else did, and you gathered all that together to make a career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people jump totally something outside of where they at and never leverage what they actually learned.
Yeah, the reset, right?
And
exactly.
They jump in and reset.
And being willing to make the jump.
Yep.
I think there's a fine line between staying put and, getting skills, seeing what happens. But there's another line between just, maybe talk to the HR person. Like, how often are people really, I don't know, do some kind of what you're saying. You networked with people, you got candid answers.
Yeah.
So you're
not going to get them from HR.
Yeah.
Hell no. No.
Remember, they're protecting the company, Chad.
But just somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just somebody that you can talk to off the record and just say, look, how often do people really get raises or
do you get rewards
promotions
for your effort,
whatever?
Right.
Exactly. And they'd be like, oh well, like okay, fuck up out of here.
Yeah.
Like it's that simple.
Yeah, I take that approach. If people ask me for advice, I try to be really candid, and I usually say, "Let's take a walk. Let's go get a coffee," so that I don't have to worry about people overhearing me.
Yeah, because you know what's going to happen.
Honest truth, right?
Because you know what's going to happen when you leave, they're going to hire somebody else.
Yeah.
Just like how your motherfucking ass came in the first place.
Yeah.
This is the same.
Next person go to
yes. Is that?
Say here's $50,000.
Yeah,
exactly. To the next motherfucker,
and hope they stay longer than 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah, the next desperate.
yes, I'm fucking take it.
Yeah,
I'm only making 40.
So, what after this job?
So FIS, I was at FIS.
Wow, you're gonna drop
doing payment analytics. I had slipped it, so I just figured I'd follow it up.
Yeah, just finish it off.
So I stayed there for a bit, and it was a good job from a skills perspective. It was the first time I'd been in. It was a Fortune 500 company, right? So I'm getting exposed to the bureaucratic hoops that people have to jump through, the normal politics that are in place in most companies. I started to observe and note things that, looking back now, I can identify may have been good signs or bad signs at certain points in time of potential and things like that. And one of the big things was like learning that in a company that large, culture isn't just company wide. Culture can be vastly different, team to team, department to department.
Oh my, yes, in the same fucking floor, on the other side of the floor. It's like, man, my motherfuckers wear t-shirts and jeans.
They got a foosball table over there. Yeah,
no shit.
They look so happy, and then you be
look
walking
at the
around.
room that they hang out in.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I
They be walking.
doing?
Hey, they walking by, walking slow. Look at those. They're looking at you. Look at those miserable motherfuckers.
Oh, those guys from the fourth floor, the left side.
Those fourth floor. Left side, yeah. You know those fourth floor motherfuckers. They're like, get your ass out of here.
No, you can't play on my foosball table.
Motherfucker.
You're not on our team.
Yeah, like that is, that is so huge. And I think you really don't know how to navigate, like anything, things take practice.
Yeah.
You don't know how to navigate in large organizations until you've been in a couple, I think.
Yeah,
at least one, but I would say at least two.
I think 2 is probably a minminimum for saying you're comfortable
then you can
navigating
make the comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you be like, oh shit.
Yeah,
everywhere is like that.
Yeah, this is just a thing.
Yeah,
unfortunately, when you scale, there's just,
and that's what I think is super valuable for people to learn, and that's why I took that approach when we talked. I tried to really just be candid with you about that. Like, it is what it is. Like, Chaz came out so like, for lack of a better word, really with rose-colored glasses on, thinking every relationship he went out of the way to make was going to be fruitful, and every person he engaged with was going to be somebody who would, put the same effort back into the relationship, or also, benefit him as well as him benefiting them in the long run. And I was just like, no, some people are just going to suck it out of you, man.
Yeah, some people are just assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Mike still says the same shit now because we have another podcast. And I'm like, people can't be that. We talk about politics and stuff. Like, people can't be that dumb. He's like,
people are stupid.
Yeah, the person is smart.
They're just
people
stupid.
Are stupid.
Yeah. People are just stupid.
Yeah.
No, how could they be? No. They're stupid. And then guess what? They prove it to him.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, these fucking people are stupid. I said that.
End episode.
Fuck both of them.
Drop that mic. Just go from there. But yeah, so I think, and that's a good thing with cultural wise, because I think people don't think about the culture of a business. They think of it as a business.
Oh,
absolutely.
Speaking of which, I'm so glad you said that. We can do a quick little segue. Justin and I were talking last week, and just talking about random opportunities or just firms. And you mentioned a certain home improvement corporation based out of Atlanta, and it was like, man, in terms of culture and how culture can precede you, and this firm that may or may not have an orange color as branding. He was like, man, the culture precedes them. And I was like, well, what do you mean? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So Chaz started talking about how culture was mostly like for you to absorb when you go in, and I said, well, it can follow you too. I said because, and I've learned this much more recently.
And I think the context, just to give you an idea, starting a new job, because people always ask me when you have a new job, how is it? And I'm like, well, people, when you first meet people,
everybody's guarded, right?
Yeah, and then once
they don't know about you.
Yeah. So after a couple of, sometimes it can be a couple months, then you're like, okay, now I can really, in terms of when you ask people, how is it? I'm still understanding culture and nuance, right?
Nuance.
So, and then this kind of led into how culture can precede you.
Yeah, exactly. So then I told him that, I was like, I've recently started to identify that as you get more specialized and you climb the ranks in terms of knowledge base in general, culture can precede you far more heavily. So the example Chaz was referring to is I have a good friend who is a lead software engineer at another large corporation, and he's kind of starting to slowly be unhappy with his job and build resentment for his leadership because he feels he's not being enabled correctly. He's actually extremely brilliant. He's a little rash, but he's a brilliant guy. he's an engineer, a brilliant engineer.
Yeah, those are engineers.
Exactly. So he was like, and I said, hey, here's this opportunity. They're pushing out jobs left and right for senior, senior engineer roles and lead manager engineer roles. And he goes, no, he's like, they got a crappy engineering program. I'm not going to go there. And this is a major company. I was actually very interested in hearing him say that. He was like, granted, I would go there, but I think he felt it would be too much work for him to go and rebuild it into a good program.
So you're talking about the orange place?
Yeah.
Well, several. So I used to be director of Women in Clothes, and so a lot of the women, with them, they used to hire a lot of software engineers there. And they have so many different departments.
Yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous. So how many different departments and how many different HR connections they have.
Exactly.
And one of the girls worked there, and she was like, I'm not happy there. And so, and I don't think that, and they open up the doors. I mean, I toured their facility.
It's beautiful. I have too.
My God.
I use them as leverage to get a raise.
Yeah, I mean,
You have
man, it was like they have one of the. I mean, the problem is that they keep you there.
Oh,
they
yeah.
have no reason. They want you to live there.
Daycare.
Yeah.
Starbucks. CVS.
Exactly.
Oh, it's
Gym.
epic.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And so she was like, it was a little bit too far from her house. She just had a baby, and so we talked, and she was like, it's time for me to move on. And she interviewed at another location, and because she was there before.
Yeah.
But now this is the thing. She basically transitioned to a new position. She was not a software engineer.
Okay.
She was in media, and she taught herself how to code.
Okay.
Got a job
Yeah.
at that location, and eventually built up her skill set. And then later on, when we went back to the old company she with, but in another position. So I totally understand, and they're not, and I think they're not the only company, because me and Michael toured Netflix. We toured GitHub.
Yeah.
And this is all in California, and they have an amazing kind of co-working space.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
they also have a
Yeah.
and the whole thing of how they I mean, it's like, it was beautiful, and they basically want to keep their people there, and they keep them getting paid. So I know exactly, what you're saying.
Yeah, and it was eye-opening for me because it really made me start to look at things from another lens. Right?
I got a random question. If y'all job hunting and somebody has Trump organization on their last job, in terms of culture, what are you thinking?
It's probably going to precede them pretty heavily. I'll leave it at that.
Do you like grabbing pussies? Or?
The good example from my space is before late last year, everybody was like, let's go work at Equifax in cybersecurity because they are leading the charge in their program. They are so sophisticated. They got the doors blown off. Pretty much everybody knows how big of a breach that was. And now they are working to rebuild their reputation. They're having to overpay underqualified talent because of that.
Just to get enough in.
Exactly.
And you know what happens, in my opinion, when you're dealing with firms who get hacked, that to me that's an indicator that you treat IT as a cost. You're like, well, fuck that, blah, blah, just put some tape on it or some shit. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just treated as a cost center or whatever the case.
But remember, we discussed that that's what the government does. So the government says, I guess this broke. Now we got to fix it.
Yep.
There's no proactive anything.
Yeah.
That goes from that.
I mean, so in saying that, we just heard about what's going on at the IRS.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Oh, the website crashed. Yeah,
it's more, a little bit. It's
a
more.
little bit more than just a crash.
It's more than that, baby. They
got brought down.
Yeah, they got hacked.
It was a denial of service attack against the IRS.
They got hacked, and they're not admitting it. Yep. We're going to hear about it.
The painting is on the wall that they got DDoSed. Yeah, writing is on the wall. It's one of those situations where it's just like, I think when Equifax first made a statement, everybody that worked in cybersecurity was like, there's way more to the story.
Exactly.
And then you started getting more information over the next month. That's the same thing that's going to happen with IRS.
With the IRS is going to be...
If they delay a day and say, you know what, there's no deadline, we're going to extend it because we just want to try to clear things up. There's too much hacking going on right now. It's too much hacking. It's just a lot of fucking hacking.
We're being hacked to death. That's how the politicians say it.
I know. They're fucking hacking.
We're just getting hacked. We're getting the shit hacked out of us. I tell you what. We're going to have to do something about it.
We got to do something about this fucking hacking. So that's just ridiculous. Yeah. But there you go. And you made a great point. It's a cost. It's not a necessity. They don't see IT as a necessity.
Well, they don't look at it as return on investment. They just look at it as a straight cost.
Yeah, it's just a cost.
Yeah. That's how most companies do.
That's most companies.
But that's fucking wrong.
Unless you're an IT company, Then
you want to...
You're an IT professional saying it's wrong. That's why.
No. Yeah, it
is wrong, right? IT needs to enable the business.
Exactly. Most companies... Motherfuckers work on a computer. The computer's connected to a network. The network is what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's all IT infrastructure. So that shit goes down. How you gonna fucking work? How you gonna get paid? Ain't no direct deposit without IT, baby.
Yeah.
But they thought about the same thing with the telephones. The telephones, it just works. So I don't have to worry about the telephone lines.
Same thing with a computer, right?
Yeah. It's the computer. I work on it every day. Why should it go down?
If you 88... But you know what? A lot of them are 88.
I'm about to say a lot of the people in these company heads are 88.
They got put on the board in 1988.
Where's my rotary phone?
Motherfuckers was 58 then. Like,
fax that over to the senator. One of that shits. But that's a problem. So what made it exciting to you about this cyber thing?
Wait, we're not even
I'm
finished.
sorry, we didn't even finish. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
we got into it and I got excited.
Yeah, you took us down that side road. I was at FIS. Okay, I'll go back to FIS, right? Payment Analytics. I'm going to stop dropping names after this company gets bigger. So Payment Analytics, so I'm like, all right, I like this. I like what I was doing. I really liked the strategic product discussions I was having because I was supporting a specific financial product, and I was working with my clients to try to ensure that they were as profitable as possible.
Right.
Okay.
So that was entrepreneurial, right?
So was this was this implementations or was
it was operations?
Okay, so you maximized
their
use of the project,
the use of a product. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maximized it by minimizing fraud exposure.
Got it.
Right.
Wow.
Because
Cool.
that's ultimately what the product was based off of. It's like if there's little fraud, this product makes money. Fraud can totally eliminate our margin.
So what I'm asking, in other words, you got to visit you saw multiple client environments.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of different industries and how payment space interacted with different goods and services too, which was really cool exposure.
Okay.
Really fed a lot of my entrepreneurial drive. While I was working there, I was like, what can I get into from an educational program that I can use to bolster my experience? Because I'm already heading down a road that's so far and away from my degree that I want to have something I can put on my resume that says, look, I'm invested in this field.
Right.
Not
just learning it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I really like conceptual discussion. I like strategic level decision making and architecting and things like that. So I was like, I don't want to, get in the weeds in code. I don't think that would suit what I really want to achieve and what I want to do in my professional space. But I also want to be capable, right, and have enough exposure to those things to be comfortable having a conversation with a software engineer.
You know the jargon.
Exactly.
You touch the software.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
Right.
But I still wanted to say somewhat. I liked the risk management function of what I was doing. So I wanted to kind of incorporate risk, technology. I was like, what also from a career perspective looks rewarding in the future? Cybersecurity, stuck right out.
Absolutely.
Right.
And what year was that done?
This was 2013.
Okay.
So 5 years ago now, and obviously it's just at the cusp of being really big focal point.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I enrolled in a master's program to get my master's in IT with a concentration in cybersecurity.
Got it. This was through a business school?
It's just Florida Institute of Technology. It's just a
Do they have
school.
So this No. I'm asking because a lot of business schools now have these business/IT functions. So you're still learning the business courses with the IT functions
within the
as well.
university. They classified it under their business school.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Yeah. So just for people listening, again, if you're in a fucking dead end job, you're not as savvy as
Here's
Justin.
an opportunity.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You may have to skip to that point.
I will follow that on saying, I just enrolled, right? So I decided to put that on my resume as pending, in progress. And that helped tremendously.
Yeah.
So why not go into doing a boot camp instead of getting a college degree with it?
Because I wanted, so the boot camp I wanted to consider, but I had plans for being enabled to do a boot camp during my career. I can do things like boot camps and certifications, I think, a little more seamlessly while I'm still working. And at that phase in my life, I didn't have a family, so I was like, if I want to get an advanced degree, this is probably the time I need to get in and start to devote my time. But yeah, the boot camp is definitely consideration, and I actually have one, or not one this year, but I'm taking a certification course for a more advanced certification as well this year.
Dope.
So yeah, it was a good move. I think that ultimately just enrolling in that program is what got me my next opportunity, which was with a massive consulting firm.
And again,
in the Big Four space, so it's big player.
And I think I'm biased, but I think you have to do consulting on some level once. You need that experience, you need that exposure, not just for the experience, but just you just learn about what you're good at, what you like, what you dislike, just because you're visiting, not even from the consulting firm itself, just the clients.
Yeah. So many environments, so many cultures.
Yeah, so you can kind
of
observe and say, wow, I really like this office. I really like these people. There's so many things you can kind of take notes and just observe on. I think it's important that people just try it once in their respective fields. Just kind of get a feel.
Agree.
The consulting.
Totally agree.
Okay.
It was incredibly rewarding. It was funny. It took me 7 months to get hired at this company.
7 months.
Yeah, because the recruiting, the higher the firm, the recruiting cycle is, I wouldn't say dumb, but God,
the big four firms, they pull like 90% of their staff straight from college.
Okay.
So those recruiting processes are drawn out, right? Because it's a college vetting through the junior and senior years, and then the offer ultimately. usually with an internship in there. So they're used to having all that time to vet, right?
Gotcha.
So I think me being an experienced, that's what they called it, an experienced hire. Mm-hmm. They wanted to, put me through as many of the rings that they could to get that
vetting
comfort
process.
Yeah. So 7 months to get hired, like probably 14 interviews individually. There was even one time where I was in an all-day like boot camp type thing. That was actually excellent experience too. And I only worked there for 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about how that came to a close? Is that personal?
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I got into this role like thinking, I'm like, yeah, I want to travel. I want to, I'm young. I'm not married yet. We're still boyfriend, girlfriend. Like at most, like she's working, I'm working. I want to get into travel. Yeah. I want to learn. Right. And I was loving it. And I really loved the work. To Chaz's point, I can totally endorse the experience I gained. Those 10 months, I gained more experience in the 4 years prior in my career. More applicable experience too. And I learned to walk the walk. You know what I mean? At that point, I think is really where I started walking the walk of being able to actually keep up with the words I could put out. Because I've always been a pretty good salesman type speaker and charismatic in discussion. At that point was where I think my performance and my capability actually caught up to my speech ability.
Before you finish what happened, the story, I just want to kind of reinforce what you're saying. I think for a lot of people, they're just like, how do I transition? So basically, like your story, you was in a legal background, and you like, how do I transition into another space?
Yeah.
So it's like you get your first job, second job, but once you get like a couple jobs in, you kind of like, I got this.
Yeah, you kind of can pick and choose, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
especially when you're employed.
Yeah. So when you're talking about when
you're employed.
Especially when you're employed.
So
looking at you, Chet. No, just kidding.
So in terms of like walking the walk, I totally agree. Just kind of like, motherfucker, I got this. And I just, one thing that I think is a point to make, just when you're hired out of college or hired out of, depending on when you were hired, there's definitely that's why I think it's important to leave. There's definitely a junior aspect. Oh, like, we hired this motherfucker out of whatever. So we're going to develop you versus, oh, we hired you. You're coming here as an experienced hire. This, to me, is like a different conversation. At least that's been my experience. Like now going forward, like I just, like, I'm good. Save me the bullshit. I can onboard me like a regular person. Don't treat me like the young,
fresh college guy who needs to be shown all the goody inclusion and
just the goofy shit. Yeah, it's just more so people just like, I don't want to say talking down. It's just a different dynamic.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but the problem is a lot of places want to do that because they don't want you coming back. Yeah, but thank you. Wow. You heard that?
See, I'll agree. Come full circle. It takes 2 episodes.
And now he's in there. So the problem is they want that manipulation because they want you part of the culture and development the way they want to.
But the funny thing is, once you work, you see how, it's all horseshit. So
that's fine.
But just show me how to do the function.
They know it's horseshit when they're feeding it to you.
Yeah, they do.
And you're just gobbling it up.
So there's two people. There's two people that's eating shit. There's the people who will eat the shit, and the people that's like, I'm not eating that. But the point is, they assume that people will stay for the money, or people will stay because this is one of the big companies that you should be part of. So you're looking at a status or just money. So if you're dealing with one of them, they assume if you want to be here, you're going to be glad you have this pay, or you'll be glad because you're part of this big, enormous company. I'm in that same position, and I'm telling them, I'm doing my job. I'm not eating that shit. Yeah. They was like, what's the matter with him?
Yeah.
But he performs.
This is so cultish. Will you come to the ritual?
It's like, totally real,
homie.
though.
Yeah.
I want to go home.
Yeah, it is real.
It's a great segue into why I left this company, this consulting firm. So, like, I was working there, and I got hired in equal level to these guys fresh out of college. And, they had been working there for about 6 months at that time. And I would get frustrated because, they're grinding. I'm talking they're putting in 80 hours a week.
Damn.
But probably 15 of those hours are just wasted time. Like they are just like, hey, let's storyboard out this one slide and how we're going to structure this slide for the client.
Or
and
meeting to the meeting.
It'll take 3 hours. Yep. And I'm in here, I'm like, this looks great. Let's do it. Like why are we mulling over this?
You're so polished. You're just way ahead.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right, I finished my work. I agree with this slide. I'm signing off. I'm leaving, right?
Yeah, I'm done with it.
I would get chastised for it because it's misery and company, right?
But just for context, for these firms, you're working in teams.
Yes,
and it's kind of assembly line
per project, right?
Yes, assembly line. Just because you did your part of the assembly line, the other people have to.
But you still got to wait until everyone clocks out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not supposed to leave and travel back home, right? And these particular projects, I was working in Orlando for a major client, and I would drive back to Tampa, whereas most of my teammates would stay in a hotel in Orlando.
Locally, right?
And I'm like, we all live in Tampa. It's an hour and 15-minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
come on, dude.
Yeah, you're spending thousands of dollars a week to stay in Orlando just because you're a young college kid, and it's like the cool thing to be like on the road. Right?
I'm in a hotel, dude. I gotta stay over. No, it's not cool.
Motherfucker, you in Orlando?
Yeah, exactly.
It is Orlando.
Yeah.
So interesting. So you got tired of that.
Yeah, so I started to get tired of that. I'm much more tolerant. I wouldn't say I would have gotten tired of that in 10 months, right?
Right.
It came to a head. I got in a pretty severe car accident while I was in Orlando on the way to the client's site. I had 25 stitches down the side of my head. Major car accident.
Gotcha. And
I was so worried about my job because of that culture of that, like, butt in the seat 70, 80 hours a week, that I called my wife. Obviously, somebody else had called an ambulance. Called my wife, and I told her so she could come. And then I called my manager, and he was just like, "Oh, okay, we'll get well." And I mean, like, that same day, I was getting texts from my team like, "Hey, we need your work."
Whoa!
Nobody came to see me in the hospital, which is, mind you, 5 miles from where they were working. Like, wow. Could have walked there.
They could have walked there easily.
Yeah. Nobody came to see me in the hospital. And I had sent them pictures, so they knew it was serious. I was just to defend everything.
But they still asking for work.
It's still asking for work. And then I had a really difficult time with the time I needed off. They made me take unpaid medical leave because I hadn't accrued any PTO because I wasn't there long enough.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, I'm out.
This is into place.
Yeah. I started searching, and kind of off the point you were making about, this is a big company. Mm-hmm. I got asked that. That was like the first question. Why are you trying to leave this firm? You've only been there for 10 months.
Yeah.
And I told him, and it was really easy to explain. I had this
see this right
huge,
here?
It was still purple, it was still fresh. I had this huge scar on my head, and I was like, this is the story, and this is why, and now can we get into the interview? But I had to do that with literally every interview I had.
Wow.
Literally every one. Right. And it was because this is such a prestigious opportunity you have. And why are you trying to leave?
Right. It's like, yes, is this working yourself for what?
Yeah.
Where's...
But people perceive that. There's big companies, especially being in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of companies down here that, what? You're leaving that airplane place? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You're leaving the lumber... What you call it place?
The beverage maker?
The beverage maker? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
So, gasp.
Neck breathing noises.
Yeah. So that's that thing that employers are saying, it must be you.
Yeah.
You're running away from something because either you're not doing the job or...
You can't handle it or
you
something.
can't handle it.
Yeah. You can't handle it.
It's some sort of personal flaw, which I think is just so crazy as just interviewing.
Yeah.
To me, this is maybe me in my soapbox. I feel like,
do it.
Step up.
From a recruiting standpoint, like, those motherfuckers just have such a, we want you to do this, that, and that. But if you reverse it on them, I think they will fold. Like, if you have to do jump through the same fucking hoops, you wouldn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't want to do this or that. It's like, it's just, why are things so stringent on when it's other people? Like, when it's not you, nobody gives a fuck.
You're still entry level. It gets better. I'm just now cracking into that, where I'm able to put the fire to
back
these companies.
To them. Exactly,
like,
and that's what I was about to tell them. Yep.
You're going to have to jump through these hoops, right?
Yep.
Fair enough. So maybe
it gets a little better.
Okay.
Because, and thank you, Justin. I asked them, so what is your training procedure?
Yep.
When I get in, and how long will that take? And if it doesn't take that long, what are you expecting from me if I don't get enough of the training? And most companies goes, oh, you'll get the training, but you can see on their face like, oh, shit.
We don't have any training.
We don't have a training regimen.
Yeah.
Then the second thing is, okay, where is the advancement from there? What is the requirement? Is there a degree? Is there this? Is there that? Put them, because they don't have true policies. I feel like I like that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. That's a friend of my friend, and we're going to...
So arbitrary.
But that's why you go on interviews while you have a job.
Yeah, exactly. Because it allows you to pay a lot closer attention to those details.
And that's, I think, is one of the most important things, that people look to be desperate. So they're desperate looking for a job, as opposed to, yes, let's see. Yes. Yeah.
Most employers have the opportunity to offer a position to a desperate job seeker, right? Like,
yep. And they love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I think they know it. I think it's totally a shift in the way that HR approaches the negotiation if they know you're unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely think so.
I jumped into this position. I was unemployed, but I wasn't unemployed. But they know they needed me. So I was like, I make this. I'm not walking in here with just this.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying. But I appreciate your time. And the GM was like, you're going to have to give him more. No. Let me make it clear. You will give him more than what he's been paid from his previous one. I walked in fine.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it gets easier once you're tenured in your position or your specialty, not your position.
Right.
With your when you tenured in your specialty, and you can say, this is what I've done with this specialty.
Exactly.
They can't say a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Unless you're another gender, and that's another story.
Then other layers come into play, for sure.
Yeah. So then you ask, then you was like, let me get the fuck up out of here.
Yeah. So I started looking, and that was literally let me add on this real quick. I got in the car accident 3 days before my bachelor party. Oh. So my bachelor party happened, but I was literally Percocets in bed. My buddy's wheeling me around. We went to a cabin in the mountains.
That's fine. Migos like that.
Yeah. We went hiking. I made him take me hiking because I was in a wheelchair. I was like, you got to push me up these hills.
Wow.
So it was good. I trolled him pretty good. I liked it. But, it sucked. But, and then, obviously 2 months after that wedding, right? Because of the whole, time off fiasco and everything, I had gone way into the negative from a paid time off perspective.
Right.
So, let's jump to the March timeframe. I got in the car accident late January. March comes around, I get married. Before getting married, I told my wife, and we had already discussed that my opportunity from cybersecurity was going to be far better in a bigger city than Tampa. So we had identified some cities in the southeast that she was comfortable moving to: Atlanta, Raleigh, Charlotte. Right? Major tech hubs. Didn't really want to go north of Raleigh because she's a Puerto Rican. She's Florida born and bred, pretty much.
She ain't having that shit.
Yeah, she's like, nah. She's like, my mom lived in Pennsylvania because she was born in Pennsylvania, but she was a very young baby when she moved to Florida. And she said, my mom told me they had to shovel out their cars and scrape their windshields.
That's right.
No.
That northeast. No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
So for part 2 of the interview, I want to get into your views of cyber security. I want to start kind of close it out on what we're experiencing right now, because I really like to get an expert view in regards to cyber security